Today we're going to talk about verbals, and by the end of the video, you should be able to define and identify verbals in writing, especially gerunds, participles, and infinitives. So let's just get started. A verbal is an umbrella term for words that look like verbs and might normally be verbs, but are actually behaving like a different part of speech in that specific sentence. Verbals are not the main verb. They're not the simple predicate of the sentence. They're just additional describing words. In fact, you can kind of think of verbals as verbs that are in disguise as something else, because they look like verbs but are not being verbs in that moment, or verbs with an identity crisis. And as I mentioned a moment ago, there are three kinds of verbals: infinitives, gerunds, and participles. In this video, we'll be discussing all of these examples, and in these sentences, the yellow verbs and helping verbs that you see are the main predicate verbs, and the other colors are different types of verbals. The first verbal, and the one that I think is actually easiest, is the infinitive. And it's a verbal that's in a to blank format. For example, in our sentences, to attend, to leave, and to get are all infinitives in that to something format. They're unconjugated verbs, or ones that have not been put into any tense. These look closest to present tense because we haven't put them into future or past or anything else. They also help clarify the verb that is the main verb. So if I'm going, well, what am I going to? I'm going to attend a party. What do I want? To leave soon. And what does the team want in this sentence? To get revenge. So these are not the main verbs, but they are kind of helping clarify what the main verb is. The trickiest thing about infinitives is to not confuse them with prepositional phrases. In other words, don't get thrown off by the word to. Just because the word to is happening in a sentence doesn't mean it's automatically a verbal. For example, in the sentence, I am going to attend a party, I know that's a verbal because the word to is next to a word that's usually a verb, like attend. But in some sentences, the word to is the beginning of a prepositional phrase, like to the party, which is to and then a noun. And this is totally different than a verbal. The next type of verbal, and the one that I think is second easiest to identify, is a gerund. These are verbals with ing on the ends that are acting like nouns. They can be the subject of the sentence or just an object being discussed, which means they might show up at the beginning or the end of a sentence. If you check out these sentences over here, in the first one, swimming is my favorite sport. In this sentence, I'm not currently swimming at this moment, I'm just talking about swimming. So this is my ing verb that's acting like the noun, acting like the subject, and therefore, right now, it's actually a gerund. I like reading, but I have more books than time. In this case, again, like number one, I'm talking about the act of reading, but I'm not reading in this exact moment. If I'm talking about it, that makes it a noun, that makes it a gerund. Chewing gum in class will get you in trouble. Again, that act of chewing gum is the subject, and doing this will get you in trouble. The only tricky part with gerunds is, again, not to confuse them with a main verb. There's a big difference between the first example right here in yellow and this green second example. Here, swimming is part of the main verb. It's part of the predicate. What am I doing? I am swimming. In this moment, again, if I'm swimming, I'm doing the action. But if I'm talking about swimming and that it's fun, now it's a gerund. And finally, participles. Those are verbals that are behaving like adjectives. They're describing a noun. And because they're acting like adjectives, they're usually located right before a noun, just like an adjective would be. Here, dropped and took are just verbs. But if I take the broken screen to go get fixed, the word broken in this case is a participle. Now, broken could be a verb in another sentence. If I have broken or had broken something, then it might be a verb. But right now, I'm just talking about a screen that is broken. Or which screen? The broken one. Number 2, the missing library book was found under the bed. In another sentence, the word missing might be a verb, yeah. But here, it's just which library book? The missing one. Now, it's just describing. And finally, the baked goods were sold out by the end of the fundraiser. Which goods? The baked ones. Right now, the word baked, which could be a past tense verb, is behaving like an adjective. Participles aren't really hard, but they can be harder to spot because they don't have as obvious of a pattern as gerunds and infinitives. Infinitives always have the word to. Gerunds always had ing verbs, but participles could be past or present tense. So they may have different verb endings like ed, ing, or en. And so you really have to identify these by looking at the location in the sentence more than just the word itself. Thank you very much for watching, and if you need to play this video again to understand the topic better, please do that now.